All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. I had two people on here, and somehow they got disconnected. So I'm sure they'll be coming back. Vanessa, we're going to be able to see you. Are we going to be able to see you today, Vanessa?
Yes, yes. Hold on one second. Let me just. Okay. I was looking for my nephew. You said they're gonna come on at 2:30. That he
Yes.
should come on. Okay. I don't know where he went, but I think he left with his mama. But yeah, you will be able to see me in about 3 minutes.
That's perfectly fine. And then TJ Daniels, are you there?
Yes, just give me a second.
All right, you sound real low, TJ.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, let me see.
This to YouTube. All right, let's rock and roll. All right, we're waiting on a few people to get on here. I want to just make sure that the people that may be watching on YouTube, that you know what we're getting ready to embark on and why it matters. We're going to have Wanda Carter. She's going to facilitate today. I'm the founder, so I'm just going to give an overview kind of why we're doing it, why it matters, and what I think it's going to do for our community during these type of events. And of course, we want to do them in person. The goal is to have physical conventions, but the National Block Club University is an anti-violence organization focused on making our neighborhoods safer. The way we go about doing that is by organizing block by block. When someone is shot, killed, stabbed, or raped, we engage that block. We do an inventory to know what we're working with, human capital wise. We get the human capital aligned with other people who care about the same thing. And then from there, they just go and do what they do to add value around the world. So we've been at it for 26 years. It's an organization that is really centered around connecting people. That's the best way I love to describe us, is connecting people. And because we're block by block, it gives us a great bandwidth to be able to do that. So again, Wanda Carter will be joining us. Right now we have Vanessa. We also have TJ. TJ, is your mic ready yet? Excuse me. Okay. We also, I see Sandra Kimball here as well. Sandra, are you queued in? Can you speak now?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm just waiting. I was just talking with Wanda. She's having a few technical issues and she'll be joining us shortly.
Excellent. Are you a school teacher as well?
No. However, I am responsible in my positions for educating the workforce in a variety of different matters, civil rights, management, leadership. I provide training to various members of the workforce based on whatever is trending and any other deficiencies that we identify or any mandates that are given out by headquarters.
Now, what organization is this with? What entity?
I work for the federal government and civil rights. So we do a lot of training. In addition, right. Yeah, it's educating. The whole thing is an educational process, really.
Well, until we go home, ultimately, hopefully we got to continue to learn. So that's right on time.
Oh, yes. I believe in that you should learn something every day and hopefully several times a day, you know. I have a problem with people who say, "Oh, that person has a bachelor's degree or a master's. They've got enough education, or they've learned enough." I don't know how or when, if you can ever say you've learned enough.
Right, right, right. And what you learned 20 years ago might be totally not relevant today. So continuing education is a must.
And I think that's the thing, when we say that it isn't relevant, some things they still have that connection or that nexus. But like you said, as society evolves, society dictates what we need to know or what we don't need to know. And also, though, businesses have the capability in universities of changing or turning that educational requirement or need around, because based on not only what they're teaching our kids in high school, once you get to the universities, they can change that young person's mindset, not only for that period of time, but for a lifetime. And I don't think people realize that you really need to be careful and you need to pay attention to what the colleges are teaching, to make sure that we stay informed, not only as parents, but as community leaders, preachers, whatever we're doing. We can't just sit there in a bubble and ignore what's currently trending in the world, because that is how you become antiquated, ancient, or
obsolete, right?
Yeah, obsolete. That's the word, right?
Now, are you in Chicago as well?
Am I into who?
Okay.
I didn't hear you. What was the question?
No, so are you in Chicago right now?
Oh yes, I'm a resident of Chicago right now, but I've also lived in Gold River, which is right outside of Sacramento. I've lived in Huntington, West Virginia, and yes, West Virginia is a state. I've lived in Little Rock. So I've gotten a chance to really see how people learn, interact with one another. Um, you have to, I've seen the various cultures.
Yeah.
And you have, that's one of the big things about educating anyone. You have to recognize that culture and respect that culture. And you have to introduce whatever it is you're trying to inform them of or teach them in a manner that they can receive it based on their culture, their values, their norms, and their experiences. So it's one of those things that unless you're really, been involved with more than one group or one type of people, because as eclectic as Chicago is, the world outside of Chicago is very different in how they receive things and how they want to be perceived.
Yeah.
And you have to be very mindful of that as you go out and you deal with those individuals.
And the more you travel, the more you're going to learn just by being exposed. I want to bring in Vanessa. Vanessa, how you feeling?
Okay. This is the day that the Lord has made.
Amen.
I'm feeling good.
Excellent. Do you mind sharing, Vanessa? You and I have been knowing each other for over a decade. I want to say almost 15 years. I've always known you to be just a woman of integrity, and I appreciate just your contributions to our society, the poetry, the spoken word, being grounded in the Lord. Tell our audience who you are and what grade that you teach.
I'm Vanessa Jones. I work at Lang Elementary School. I am a mom of 4. I do and host some community events. I'm a community member. I teach 5th grade. Yes, 5th grade is great.
Is that new this year that you switched to 5th grade? What grade were you teaching a year back?
So I did teach middle school. Maybe that's why you invited me to this one, because I was like, what? Why are you inviting me to the 8th grade? But for my first 2 years, I taught middle school, and then the last 2 years, including this year, I taught 5th grade.
Well, just hold on, because Wanda is here now. And what I'm gonna do, Eddie joined as well. So I'm gonna get Eddie and TJ, and then Wanda, I'm gonna turn it over to you. So Eddie, are you there?
We on, Sandra. Hi.
We
Oh,
got Eddie on mute. Okay,
Okay.
I can hear you.
you can't hear me?
Thank you, man, for joining us. Wanda is gonna lead the discussion, but I wanted you just to introduce yourself, man, and let people know what grade you teach, and we're gonna go from there.
So, yes,
Okay.
my name Eddie Johnson. I'm a Chicago public school teacher, but this year at my classroom.
Now, is it
I
me?
will
Can
be,
you guys hear Eddie, or is
I'm
it just
currently-
me?
Yeah, he breaking up though. Some of those words broke up.
It's low, Eddie.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna take these headphones off.
Just a minute.
Is that better? Is that better?
Let's go, man. We got you. So we want to get what we can out of you while we have you. So go ahead.
How you doing,
Yeah,
Sarah?
I'm out the classroom this year for the first time in 10 years. I think it's a couple of people that got their, if everybody go mute, we should be better.
Yeah, let me mute everyone, and then Wanda's. Let me mute.
Sarah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Wanda, I got you, Wanda. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm about to, I want to bring on TJ with his introduction, then I'm going to turn it over to you, okay?
All right.
Hi, I'm TJ Daniels. I'm a sophomore at King College Prep. I'm also the founder of student-run business and company commission, which allows for me to help students in creating successful businesses or allowing them to expand their businesses beyond the restrictions that our schools put on them. So I guess in a sense, as a student, I'm always learning, but also as a member of society, you're always teaching because somebody is learning from you as you learn from somebody.
I love it. So Wanda, that's our audience. We heard from Sandra already. So Wanda is an amazing journalist. She's our facilitator for today. So she has the questions for you guys. And then we just hope people will be able to watch this video and learn some nuggets from you guys as teachers. Go ahead, Wanda. You got to unmute, Wanda. I muted everyone, so you just have to unmute. All right, let me unmute.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Wanda. You got it.
All right. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's very good to see everybody, and education is a very important subject. And so I'm glad that Sandra and TJ were able to join me. And so I'd like to know what your opinion is about what's going on with education today. Let's talk about education as a profession. TJ, just give me your opinion about how you think education or the process of us learning today is affected by or has been affected by the pandemic.
Well, I believe simply the pandemic has only opened up another gateway to education. We are so used to customary, either you're in college, so you're going to school online, or you're in classroom for pre-K to 12th grade. And if you really attend college in person, then that's for 4 more years. But this has now allowed students under college age to learn how to operate technology on a grander scale, because technology has been so limited in schooling, to which you use it only to complete an assignment, to turn in the work, to look up one thing, and that's it, and you're off of it. Now it's something we have to log onto every day. We have to use it every day. We have to find out new things about it every day. So the pandemic only showed us another way to learn and is not restricted what we learn. But education as a profession is one of the most important things any person can do, any person can take up, because when you teach people, you're teaching people at a very impressionable age
That's
where
correct.
they look to you for all the knowledge that they will carry throughout their life, even if they don't remember it on the spot. If it's brought up, if it's talked about, they can say, "Oh, in fifth grade, Mrs. or Mr. So and so taught me this." Oh, and this is just it's just information that you can reach back on. However, in the 21st century, I believe that people conceptualize education very differently than those who marched and fought and died for us to have the ability to be educated. Now,
You know,
education is seen as a very um, assembly line type of thing where
mhm.
um, you wake up, you go to school, you have a uniform. So that's they say the uniform is conforming to the rules of society. Um, the school to acknowledge the start of school. What do you have? A bell. To acknowledge the start of an assembly line, you have a bell. Now, I personally don't agree because school is not about teaching um, certain knowledge. Like if school, yes, you learn history, but what do you learn in history? How to research. Research is a skill. School is teaching skills that you would otherwise not have.
That's
An
true.
assembly line,
So,
you have just a basic set of instructions that you do every day for years until you kill yourself in that position, or you just retire or find a new job.
I've been a teacher for a long time, many years, let's say over 30 years. I was teaching as a substitute teacher when I stopped being director of radiology. Before I was a substitute teacher, I was teaching x-ray techs. But the point is that when you teach, you have to teach according to the person or the people that you're teaching. In other words, children learn differently than adults, and adults learn differently than children. So when you're talking to a child, oftentimes they teach us pedagogy where we're talking to the child and trying to assess where the child is at. But pedagogy, when you're teaching adults, you're teaching from their knowledge base. And that makes it easier for you to communicate with them because you can always relate the subject to something they've done or they're going to do. Sandra, you've been a teacher. In your opinion, how has teaching changed today from what it was when we were in school?
Oh, wow. Well, again, something like that TJ mentioned, the use of technology, computer technology, and the virtualizing of a classroom and the bringing together of a classroom. People are in different, not only in different states, they can be in different countries and still participate in a single classroom, and you can share those ideas. I think going back to our college days, we were in a pretty supportive, relaxed environment. I see the same type of exposure to what's going on in the world, that the professors would always, ask us, they tell us what they wanted us to know. Then they would ask us, okay, so tell me your interpretation of what I just said, or how did you receive that? What does that mean to you? I can tell you in higher education that continues, but it's different because again of different exposure.
Yeah,
When we came up, our parents were very rigid. Society itself was very kind of semi-closed minded. Now everybody is accepting of everyone. And I
right.
think that's the big conflict because you have these generational conflicts depending on, who else is going back for their higher education, or if they have to reinvent themselves because they lost their job and they need to go back and get those few credits. I even heard some colleges now are allowing you to still get credit for those courses that are more than 10 years old. And I can remember a while, not too long ago, if your credits were more than 10 years old, it didn't count anymore. And I've heard 2 or 3 of them on television say that they will accept those courses, even if they are more than 10 years old. So
Wow.
that right there is a change. And that's
Yeah.
also maybe another draw to get people to, opt out for higher learning, because it helps you with employment. I think even now, the federal government was once known for being an entity that hired based on your experience. Many times now, those individuals with master's degrees, they pretty much will accept a degree in lieu of experience,
Yeah.
which is different. Plus, sometimes those individuals who are the supervisors, if they have a degree, they also want someone with that same mindset. Individuals that hold degrees are usually more open-minded. There's a different type of behavior. There's a different type of expectation when they come into the workforce versus those who don't have degrees.
Miss Richmond, what do you think about young teachers today, their methodology of teaching, and how does that work, or how do you see that meshing with the youth today? Because the youth today are different than the youth when I was a young person. Today, they're more outspoken. They are more direct in sharing their opinions. And I'm sure they probably challenged the teachers a lot more than we did when we were younger. What do you say, Miss Richmond?
Hi, are you talking to me, Miss Redmond?
Oh, he's a Redmond? Okay, see, I read bifocals and I thought it was Richmond. I'm sorry, Miss Redmond.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm talking to you.
Good. Can you repeat the question?
Basically, I was asking, are you an instructor? Are you a teacher?
Yes, for 5th grade.
Okay, so today, when you're teaching 5th graders, are they receptive to what you have to say and without challenging you? Because young people today are very outspoken, they're very direct, and they challenge the teachers. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so in my classroom, I will say, and I'm gonna try to speak pre-pandemic, because with the computers, it's not as much engagement and participation. Like sometimes they just be somewhere else. But last year was my first year teaching 5th grade, and I think 5th grade it's that year right before middle school, and so you have a range of students' personalities. And so, like, for instance, I have one student this year, she's very opinionated and outspoken, but she also has a lot of siblings older than her, so that probably brought that outspokenness out of her, because she's around like an older crowd a lot. But then you have a lot of students that don't say much of anything. So I think 5th grade is that year where you're not quite speaking out just yet, but you're beyond that 3rd grade, 4th grade year. So you're speaking out a little bit. But no, you know what? I haven't had a lot of students challenging me. I haven't. I really want them to speak out more and be more opinionated. But I do know that our 3rd grade teacher this year, she spoke about when she taught middle school, and she spoke about how they would challenge her, and they were very opinionated. They spoke out. That's when she taught middle school. She's teaching 3rd grade now. And so she did talk about the contrast of that.
I have to unmute myself because I'm at the Swift Mansion over here, and it's full of young people, and I had to go in a secluded area so I could talk to you all. But I hear that they started the drums, so I was trying to, Sandra, you may have to take over and ask the questions, but I'll try to do it until the sound is just unbearable. Okay, so how do you think that teaching is a career that you're going to stick with? Because our students today need that kind of interaction from teachers like you. You engage them. We need that. What do you think?
Yeah, it's something that, so this is my fourth year of teaching, and so I think since I'm still kind of new in the profession, that's a question that I wrestle with and ask myself, because there's definitely some challenges, and so I'll be like, do I want to do this? Do I want to teach? But I do know that I will try it out for some years before I give up. I think it's my calling, and so I think when it's your calling, even when it gets hard, you got to talk to God about what's making it hard. Is it my prayer life? Is it my schedule? Is it, what is it? Because I do think this is my calling. Now, once I get it all together and feel like God is equipping me for all of the challenges, if it still ain't acting right, then maybe I'll think about another profession. But I do think that it's my calling, and I do think that I would rather be teaching versus like doing something that's not so hands-on with the students. So yeah, I definitely want to impact those lives. The young people, the youth, if you're impacting them when they're 10 years old, then imagine when they're 15 and 20 and they're a young adult. It starts young. So it's good to
Yeah.
get them at that age.
Now, Wanda, do you see Eddie? We got Eddie on here too. We haven't heard from Eddie, and he got his hand
Okay,
raised.
Eddie, let's hear from you. Watch it, Daniel. I'm
How
sorry.
everybody's doing? Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, we
So
can hear you.
this is my first year out of the classroom. Just a little background from my experience. I got 22 years. I started off straight out of college, and I'm currently because of the pandemic, I became the technology coordinator and the dean of students. So I'm out the classroom, but really, what my question is: do we all understand that education have evolved? It's no longer the traditional education that we know of, and what I mean by
Right.
evolving, one thing that I really experienced this year is that students the state requires students to start school at the age of 5 or kindergarten. That is one of the biggest issues because now early childhood have really started at the age of 2 years old. So unfortunately, in our communities, we have allowed students to start at kindergarten, and these developmental skills are so far behind. And so this have contributed to the largest population of special education, or what we call diverse learners, which has also evolved. It's no longer young people that have those cognitive delay issues or behavior issues. A lot of stuff that we classify our behavior is it's a developmental skill that they haven't mastered or developed. So we're asking students, which is very unfair. We ask the kindergarten who come in for the first time to sit down in a seat for 6.5 hours. It's just not realistic. We asking them to, and so that's my question. Do we really have we really addressed the evolution of education?
So, Mr. Johnson, are you speaking for as it relates to the Black community or to the community in which you are educating kids? Because I don't see what has a problem. I've got a couple of kindergartners and preschoolers. Well, one is first grade, isn't he? But he was in kindergarten, and the other one, she's still in preschool, and they're doing the virtual learning. But as far as, well, first of all, they're not required to sit for 6 hours. But as far as actually going into a classroom setting, they were kind of prepared for that before school, because that was just the way the parents were parenting. When they introduced, once they started, they were able to vocalize and start talking. The next thing, all of them were introduced to it's a shame, but all of them know how to use an iPad or a notebook, the tablet. And even this virtual school was kind of a breeze for the younger ones, because they were already interacting with everyone that way. So I'm saying, what area do we need to be focusing on, or do we need to try to? Is this a geographical area?
So it's and I'm in Chicago public schools, number one.
Okay.
So with Chicago public schools being such a versatile city,
Yes.
even though you Black, you African American, you're in the inner city, but you could be in a community on the south side, and the way the schools are set up by this tier system, level one, level two, level three, it's a different diversity. So you could be in a Black community and you could really have those issues that other Black communities don't have. A lot of that is based on socioeconomic disadvantages and just overall the subcultures of these communities. I currently work in Ashburn community where the household income is, I believe, anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000, but the school itself is an open enrollment school. So even though the median income in Ashburn, but the people that this school service are poverty stricken. And so it's very versatile. So what, just my experience in the inner city, these are issues that students are coming in kindergarten when not those developmental and social skills develop or master. Now, of course, you could go in other communities. You could go on the north side, close to O'Hare, and they don't have those issues. But they still servicing Black kids. They still servicing Hispanics. So it do play a big difference with the economics of these communities in Chicago.
And I think it's an and, not an or, because you know, it's so much out there, so much territory, so many different cultures, and like you say, socioeconomic backgrounds. So you got some children, but I think overall, what you're saying, Eddie, is we do have a better job to do in terms of better preparing our young ones before they even enter the kindergarten. Reading to them when they're first born, things of that nature, just so they can get the words in their DNA. Wanda, I'm not sure, but we got the birthday lady on right now. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
No, I didn't. And as I said, Saran, I'm so sorry, but I'm in the.
You mean Naima?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Naima
just joined.
Birthday.
Yes, Naima just joined.
Yeah, Naima, help us determine what educational processes we need to look at with our new, with children returning from the pandemic. You know, everything is different now. What do you say about the methodology of teaching our children after the pandemic? You know, because some kids are still doing traditional learning and others are doing this virtual learning. What say you? Naima? Okay, she's probably muted.
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah,
I had one question that I had wanted to ask Vanessa, because she said that doing the virtual as a virtual educator, she found things to be very different. So she didn't want to speak to right now, but she wanted to talk to pre-pandemic. I've heard several instructors say that. Now, I'm a person who actually received my master's degrees by doing online, quote unquote, virtual training, you know, and I am a little surprised to see the level of resistance. Now, I do have a really good friend of mine who was working toward her master's, who again, when the bank was paying for her tuition, they only would pay for it if it was virtual. I don't know what that was about. But she had to forego that opportunity because she said she really needed that traditional setting because online just was not working for her. And she's very intelligent. I mean, she's, in my opinion, she's super smart. So, but now with the virtual learning being more and more, I constantly hear people, parents, if the parents not complaining, I'm hearing the educators complain. I understand the kids are able to articulate why they don't like it because they don't like the lack of socialization. They miss that interaction, that one-on-one physical interaction with their peers. From the teacher standpoint, can you tell me what do you, because you're one of the younger educators, because some of the older ones who have been complaining, I'm like, okay, they don't want to change. Tell me, how is it, what do you find to be difficult about the virtual learning?
Okay, so I also tried to do a master's program online. This was pre-pandemic. It wasn't for me. I had to be in the classroom just because of everything was just like you typing it, and I mean you reading what the teacher is saying. There was really no real interaction. Now with Zoom and Google Meet, though, virtual learning or online learning, it doesn't even look the same. You actually can have a classroom with people and meet online. So the issue for me as a teacher is the student engagement. Like I could be doing flips some days and it's ribbit because the students, I think even if so one, you got to figure out what they like, what they interested in, and then you do that, right?
Mhm.
However, because it's virtual and you able to keep your camera off, I could be doing something you like and you don't even know it because you sleep. Or you don't even know it because you done walked away from the computer and you done said, okay, I'm not doing school
this.
today.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I can still see your picture up because your camera's off. So you signed in for the day. We're on the computer for like 7 hours, and that's because that's what a lot of school districts want. They want us to be on the computer with the students all day long. And so a student might sign in, but that don't mean that they present. And so that's what we're dealing with, students not being present for real.
So they really need to, in addition to this, they need to change the policies because, and I do understand because in civil rights, we deal a lot with ADA. So we do understand some individuals with disabilities who have a problem with having their face or showing themselves on camera. And that is a reasonable accommodation, but that should not be 85% of your classroom.
Exactly.
And that should not be. And I think
it should be noted too if this person is always off camera. I mean, like where are we going with that? It should definitely
well,
be
if it's a reasonable accommodation, and that's what they should start doing. They have to change the policies and procedures. I don't want to disrespect anybody that's at CPS. I actually know Janice Jackson from a long time ago before she was at her level. But I really think the leaders dropped the ball when they came up with a solution, and they should have come to the table not only and talked to the parents, they should have brought in a consulting company to help them, because Garner is great and so is Deloitte, because the government, we use them, and we've been using WebEx. I mean, DOD, because I was with DOD, we've been using Zoom, virtual learning, WebEx. We've been using those for more than a decade, and we do it all the time. Cisco, which again, with the VPNs and all of this, so they should have asked professionals who do this daily. And we do it again from talking in DC to talking all the way in Europe or China or wherever we need to converse, that and to also educate our folks, because that's the problem. They did not include the kids or think about, and I think 7 hours is too long. I think there needs to be breaks, because again, in the working world, we are never on a Zoom more than an hour. If we have something for 2 hours, everybody is tripping. I mean, you talking about some complaining, and they want to know what the, and it seems like, what the hell they got to talk about for 2 hours? No. So, and usually when we do connect, that's one of the first things. I don't care if it's a general or a senator or what director, they're saying, this is not going to be a 2-hour Zoom. That is not going to happen. I don't know who scheduled this like this. And even if they got PowerPoint presentations, but they needed to come back to the table, because I tell you, I don't think virtual learning is going to go away.
No.
I really think that because of all the things that are going on, unfortunately, the pandemic is not going to leave soon enough. I know virtual working is not going to go away. There are going to be a lot of people now who are going to stay because it's beneficial to the companies. I mean, they were paying absorbent amounts of money for rent, light. Yeah. They don't have any of that anymore. This parking, this transportation, even the government was paying for people and giving supplements for people to drive to work. They're going to have these people sitting at home doing this work now.
Saying the society was going that way anyway. So we,
right. This catapults them, because they were kind of resistant. They had dug their heels in, talking about they wasn't going forward. And the pandemic made them stop digging in their heels and start running forward in order to stay viable. So
Exactly.
Now,
I
see
you know,
we
I
got,
just, I'm sorry.
no, I wanted to get TJ in. He had his hand raised for a minute, but go ahead and finish, Sandra.
Well, I just want to, I think they need to have that conversation because education is very important to me. And I'm one of the people, continual learners, and we got to catch them early. And kids are actually on their phones 20 hours a day. So
Yes, they are.
whatever it is that we are not doing when it comes to the classroom and keeping them engaged, we need to step back. And maybe that's one way of keeping them engaged. I saw where a history teacher had videoed his entire trip, and his kids actually, while he was playing the video, all of his kids were online watching, and then they were engaged in that entire video conversation and education. Maybe that's the new way to go. We got to give them something that they're interested in and that holds their attention.
I think the methodology that we use to teach has to be changed, because like you just said, the virtual learning is not going away and virtual working is not going away. So we're going to be working and learning from home, and we need to learn how to do that in a way that the children are receptive. Now, you know, I have great grandchildren, and all I have to do is put them on the phone with ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. This little boy right here, he can take my phone and go to YouTube and go to ABCs, 1, 2, 3 by himself.
Mhm.
And so what I'm saying is we have to change the methodology by which we're using to teach.
Now,
And since virtual learning is here, then we have to do something with that.
we got TJ here, y'all.
Well, okay.
Okay,
So I've been in
TJ,
high
go ahead,
school
TJ.
for 2 years, but before I was in high school, I was in the 8th grade. My teacher was very adamant. I had her for 2 years before even graduating, but she used to send her students down to help with the first and second graders, preschoolers, kindergartners, and you can see the various ways that students' parents have immersed them. If your parents did not teach you certain things, like my mother and grandmother and family in general are very staunchly supportive of education. So from the get-go, education is something that's important. So you come into school valuing education, even though you're young, you know, and setting your mind that this is going to help me. And it stays that way. It's so simple. This is going to help me. Then you understand what you want to do in life. This is going to help me do so and so. Then you understand that you want to do something else with that. This is going to help me do this and that. But we also have to realize that the parents and teachers have to work as a collaborative. Each student cannot be treated like every other student, because it's a case by case, student by student basis, to which we cannot group everyone. The parent has to inform the teacher on their student's learning, or their child's learning style, and the teacher should relay that information to the parent, so that schooling does not only start at 8:45 when you join school, and it does not end at 3:45 when you leave school. You're learning from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. And if that's not the case, we can't expect students to want to learn because they feel it's a cutoff switch. At 3:45, I have nothing else I have to learn today. I don't want to learn anything else because I don't have to. It's 3:45 and this is the end of my learning day.
Right. Now, that's a good point, TJ. And I know Perspectives had a theory of using this whole city as the classroom, because they wanted the youngsters to know that even you traveling downtown Lincoln Park to other parts of the city, you're learning. You're going to be able to see some things and compare and contrast. And I like that model, because I do think getting outside your bubble is important, just to give you perspective. Like Sandra, living in different cities, gives her a unique perspective that someone who'd never been there just won't have. You know, it makes sense that way. What I wanted to do, Eddie, we still got Eddie on here, because the target was 7th and 8th graders. So I do want to pique you guys' idea about the graduates. Let's take the 8th graders now. Let's get ready to go to high school next year, end of September this year. Are there going to be some unique challenges with COVID, remote learning? What's going to happen? Like 9th grade is terrifying all by itself. You're going in there with grown-ups, 18-year-olds. So just speak, let me hear from you guys from that. What do you predict is going to be the impact of these 8th graders going to 9th graders this year?
Well, I can actually definitely speak to that. We see that in 9th grade, the most important thing in terms of being a socialite or a socially active person is meeting people, interacting with people, group projects. You can't do that because in high school, you have a lunch period to which you can interact with those who are in your class. You have class periods to which when the teacher is not instructing, you can get up and leave your seat and have a conversation with someone else. That's not the case because you're restricted. First of all, in every class I've been in, you don't unmute unless you have something constructive to say in regards to the lesson. And when that's the case, you can't build a relationship because you're limited to speaking only when you're asked the question. You can't speak to other students, and then you don't know the students. You don't know them. Because there's the greatest way for you to learn and meet somebody, I would say, is in person. And because it's limited to not being in person in terms of high school and interacting with someone, learning their body language and learning how they interact with their friends or other people outside of school, or just learning them as a whole, you can't do that. You're restricted. You don't know. Your camera's off. So they don't know how you're receiving what they're saying to you. It's just so many barriers in place in terms of socialization that it makes it hard to really grasp and understand who this person is. So 9th grade is ultimately harder in terms of socially, but I know last year's 9th grade was probably the easiest in terms of in educational wise, because you really didn't have any restrictions that like I was in 9th grade last year. I didn't have the restrictions or the expectations that a 9th grader pre-COVID would have.
Right. Okay. No, I appreciate that. Sandra, looked like you was about to say something about your prediction on the incoming 9th graders, meaning they're getting ready to graduate real soon.
Well, my thing is, like I said, I think they really need to, the CPS needs to go back to the drawing board. One thing about children, we have an expectation, they have an expectation. One thing TJ said is absolutely true. They're gonna miss that walking into that high school experience. They're gonna miss that orientation that their previous 9th graders and their parents receive, and that thrill, as well as, they're excited about going, but they're afraid of going because, again, like they say, there's some grown-ups there. The educational expectations are different, but I can be on football, I can do this, the whole world is opening up for them. Yes, they're going to miss that experience because they're not going to be able to go into the building. However, I would like for them to be able to learn a new experience for getting to know people through this virtual Zoom or WebEx experience, because I can tell you, I have interviewed with 9 people at one time. I was the person being interviewed, and that was last summer, I think it was. I was interviewing for a position at Army Corps of Engineers, and there were 9 individuals on that panel, none of them whom I knew. Never saw them. And to add to it, everybody was white, and they wanted to know and learn my personality, as well as me talking about my level of professionalism. So there's a level of confidence and a level of socializing that actually occurs on Zoom when it is used properly. And that is the thing I think that they've got to do in order to get these kids engaged again. there is that opportunity, and it happens. I've seen it on the television shows. And again, I'm one of those people because I work with thousands of people at a time. I would always watch the big shows or, Saturday Night Live or whatever's going on just to see what was trending at that time. But I have actually seen Good Morning America and all these other morning shows, the ones especially on NBC, where they actually had the people Zoom in, they're on Zoom, and they've had 60 people. They do that birthday thing and everything, and they keep those people engaged during the show, which is going on. But those people also are interacting with each other, because just like we can see each other now, I can hold up a sign or something that one of the other viewers can relate to, and that starts a conversation.
Right.
And through that conversation, that starts a relationship. This is what has to be taught, because I think they've missed that.
And keep in mind, we're dealing with the third largest school district, so we give Janice them a little leeway. It's where you got a lot to deal with. Vanessa, you had your hand up. Vanessa.
Yeah, I was gonna speak about the parents, but I'm glad that TJ shared his perspective on like the social thing, because I'm always thinking about like how to make it better. So I know. So it's a girl in my class, she loves to talk. So I'd be like, what do they love to do? And I'm like, so she be asleep most of the time. But I say, okay, Talia, how about we have talk time? So where you can her own talk time. So it's like she got her own, talk show or something like that. But she leads the topic or whatever. And I didn't mean to say her name on YouTube, but it's all good things. But she leaves the topic. But anyway, I say all that to say that it's a period of the day where I just allow them to socialize and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I still I need them to be learning and using these vocabulary words. So I throw in some questions like, okay, so what's somebody that they love? NBA Youngboy. So, okay, what contributed to his success? So, I throw in some vocabulary words in there. But yeah, so I'm just really trying to figure out, but I'm thinking maybe based off what TJ said, I probably will try to use those breakout rooms even more. It's like sometimes the day's so packed, and I be trying to give them time off the computer too. Like, okay, do some reading and writing, so they don't spend so many hours in front of the screen. But I do want to utilize more things that's going to get them being social and having those social opportunities. So anything I could do that can help them socialize with each other. And he brought up the fact that they're not able to really do group work like that. And it's hard. I broke the kids out into breakout rooms in the beginning of the school year. I mean, it was a mess. I checked into the rooms and they talking about other stuff. Oh my God.
We know motherhood.
Yeah, she over here. But they were being disrespectful to each other, or I check in some rooms and students that's supposed to be in class was somewhere else in a Zoom meeting with their cousins, nephew. Like, it just got so messy. But however, if we can keep it from being messy and the students will get used to doing that, I definitely want to use those breakout rooms more, or even the signs like Miss Sandra said, or whatever, to get them to feel in that connection. And I always tell the students, bring yourself to class. Like, who are you? Are you a singer, rapper? You like to make videos, whatever. Like, I try to even like make the assignments, stuff that they want to do. And everything that we try as teachers, sometimes it don't work because still we virtual, and sometimes they just not tuned in. But the other thing, the reason why I raised my hand initially was because I realized how much we need the parents. Like, when the students are in person, you can get them that look, oh, you're going to do this assignment, or you're going to do this assignment, or you're not going to this thing, or, you could bring them snacks sometimes. You can give them incentives, rewards. They could work their way to a pizza party. But when it's virtual, 99% of the stuff I just named, you cannot use, you cannot do. And so it's hard trying to figure out, well, what's a reward for them virtually? And what's a reward for a student who's at home with a PS5 and all they got to do is tune you out and play the game? They don't have to listen listen to you. And so I really need the parents. Like, I'm most likely none of my parents are watching, but however, whatever parents are watching, like, we need you, because now in the classroom, I'm the enforcer, but they not with me. So you the enforcer. So if you come home, even if you at work while they doing virtual learning, you come home and they can't show you not one assignment that they did today, or if I'm steady calling every other day and I'm telling you the same thing about your student, I feel like the parent have to see themselves as a partner more than what they used to be. They really have to say, okay, now it's different. My student is learning at home, in my environment, at home. So what am I going to do to make sure that my child is getting their education? The teacher doing his or her part, what am I going to do? And so I really need them to take the partnership seriously and talk to the teacher and see what can they do. Sometimes I might call and say, okay, so-and-so is not responding, blah, blah. And that works. But then you got some teachers, some parents that's at home and they sitting right there and they don't notice or not caring to notice that the student is not learning. They're not paying attention. The teacher steady calling their name. I know you hear me calling the student name. Like, the parent has to get more engaged. You don't have to teach them. You might not know the material, but you got to be the enforcer and making sure that your child learning, even if it's something that they not interested in. Everything we do not going to be interested. Like, we're not a clown. We're not going to entertain you all day. So we trying to make sure that you interested, but it's going to be, sometimes it's not going to be interesting. It's not going to be fun. So as a child, the parents, the adults have to make sure that they are in charge of the child's education.
Well, there are a lot of parents that feel like they were forced into being teachers because the students are learning at home. And so just like you just said, they be sitting right there and will not instruct their child to participate.
And that's an ignorant parent, because you know what? The teachers I look at teachers as a supplement. By the way, I can let you know, TJ is my grandson. I believe that you start training at home, and you are always responsible for helping their kids with your education, including if they're in college. So that is an ignorant parent, and I have no problem. I want this to go worldwide. That's an ignorant parent that's sitting there and knows that child is not listening or doing their instructions. That's wrong. You're setting your kid up for failure, and it's towards being forced. I believe that's a cultural thing that we need to get out of. I don't know where that comes from, but I see us moving out of it, but I still see 20% of us still back there in that mess. And I hear the older ones saying it, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you hear the younger one saying, the parent agrees. Then the next thing I hear the student who complains also. That's ignorant, and they need to stop it. But I was going to propose something else also, Vanessa. I would, to get your kids involved, and I don't know what your budgets or things look like, but I promise you, nonprofit organizations and even some other folks, sometimes even Jules will do it for you. I would start giving them, like, those who do well and show me that they're doing everything. Kids are funny. They could get a e-gift certificate. I mean, the $5, because again, talking about technology again, coming through their email address, showing that if they participated, they get that $5 coupon, or whatever they call it, e-gift card or e-gift something that they can actually use from Target and other different places. And I'm telling you, many of those places will donate those because they're trying to help this work also. That right there, having that, and you think it's only $5, the fact that they're being rewarded. Yes. That's right. And they're being recognized for participating. I have a grandson. Well, TJ has a younger brother that is he's an 8th grader. And we had a situation where his, I don't know what they were called. I guess they're class assistants or whatever they were not doing what they were supposed to do. And Desmond's grades were really suffering. And his mom, who was always involved, she became really outraged. My daughter is ill and she was dealing with some illnesses at the same time, but she was like, this is stupid. I know this is not right. So she started sitting with him. He took that 14 that they were giving him as a score. In 3 weeks, it turned around to a 100. You see what I'm saying?
No, it's and I guess, Sandra, my worry, because National Black Oak University issue is violence. It's those ignorant parents who we as a society need, so that that ignorant parent who's raising an ignorant child don't become the rapist, the robber, or the shooter.
Correct.
To a person that's going to school. So I think we got to target that population, no matter how ignorant, because that ignorance can come back and haunt the rest of us. So
and I'm saying that actually getting that reward and being recognized in a positive way
big time,
means so much. It's just like when little kids get
big
the
time.
stars, get their name put up on the board. Your whole name is on the blackboard. Student of the month and all that. Those are things. Those are tools you can still utilize. Because I'm telling you, these college people, they love getting on the dean's list, girl. It was one of those things.
It's another nugget. Yeah, it's another nugget.
Yes.
All right, TJ, then we got to wrap up, you guys. Go ahead,
I just
TJ.
want to say, yes, like you said, there are some parents who feel as though they have become the new teacher. And my grandmother gave an example that was very close to home. And my mother did not say, because they're not teaching, I'm not going to teach. But also, there can't just be a responsibility on the parents. The parents do their job. The parents pay taxes for the teachers to teach their students. So it's an expectation that the teachers will fulfill their duties and teach the child. Not saying that because the teacher is not doing so that the parents should just not teach, but there should also be some type of responsibility on the teacher to do so. But it becomes so hard to make sure that that's what's happening, because you can't, as an administrator of a school, you can't jump from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, ensuring that everyone is doing their job every single day, all hours.
My principal does. Yes, you can. My principal does. Not all hours, but my principal do pop in, jump. Yeah, she's jumping in the class.
No, it's amazing that the show was going. So I wanna thank you guys. Wanda, thank you so much. I know you are busy, and I thank you for carving out time. Sandra, I thank you as well. I hope to get your phone number, Sandra. TJ, you're a sharp young man. Stay safe out there as a Black man. Vanessa, I love you. Just so you guys know, next Saturday is the big one. It's our high school conversation. So you're welcome to come back in next week. And the bottom line, what we're doing, you'll be able to see the other ones on YouTube. This summer, we're going to have 212 blocks in Black Chicago become education blocks, like literally 94th and Jeffrey being 7th grade reading, 91st and Chappelle being 7th grade history. So it's going to be very interesting to see, and that's going to allow us to be socially distanced. It's going to allow us to have some fun with creating a new atmosphere when it comes to challenging our young people from an academic standpoint, block by block. So thank you guys, and I appreciate you, and I hope to talk to you guys next week as well.